Okay, on this video we're going to look at inequalities, and we're going to be kind of comparing numbers, which is a good introduction to some stuff that we're going to look at in Chapter 6. An inequality means not equal. So like if we say x is greater than 2, that means x is larger than 2. It could be any number greater than 2. So that would be 3, 4, 5, etc. Anything that's bigger than 2. So I'm going to put a parenthesis on the 2 and shade that way. If it had an equal to on it, that means x is greater than or equal to 2, and I would put a squared off bracket on the 2 to indicate that the number 2 would work, because equal to 2 would be okay. Alright, so let's look at a couple of these here. X is more than 5. Okay, so that means x could be any number that's more than 5, greater than 5. It could be 6 or 7 or 8. So I'm going to put a 5 here in the middle, put a couple numbers to the right of 5, 6 or 7, 4 and 3 below, and I'm going to put a parenthesis on 5 because it does not equal 5. It can't be equal to 5. It's got to be more than 5. And then I'm going to shade the numbers to the right. So x could be greater than 5, it could be 6, 7, etc. It could be just barely more than 5, like 5.1, but it cannot equal 5 because it does not have the equal to on there. It says it has to be more. Okay, x is less than 5 would be this way. And you may have heard the phrase about, the alligator and how it eats the bigger number. So if x is more than 5, x is bigger. The inequality is opening to 5. If x is less than 5, then it's pointing to x because x is the smaller one. Same numbers here on my inequality, on my number line rather. This time x is smaller than 5. So it's on this side, and we're going to put a parenthesis on that 5 to show it's not equal to. Okay? All right, x is at least 5. That means x could be 5 exactly, or it could be more. X is greater than or equal to 5. So if you think about at least 5, if you have at least $5, you could have 5, or you could have 6 or 7 or 8, but you got to have at least that many. Okay, on our graph, same numbers on my graph. Still shading to the right, 6, 7, 8, etc. But this time I'm going to put a squared off bracket on the 5. Okay, so we use a squared off bracket when we have equal to, and the number is included in that number. Okay, what I'd like for you to do is take a couple minutes, pause the video, take a couple minutes, and see what you think on the rest of these on your own. Okay, see if you can write the inequality and sketch a number line graph. And then turn the video back on and check yourself. Okay, but that'll give you a chance to kind of think about them first and then check. Okay, so go ahead and hit pause. Okay, so hopefully you paused, you tried the rest, and now you can kind of check them with me. All right, x is fewer than 5. That means x is smaller. You could have 4 or 3 or 2, but you can't have more than 5, and you can't have exactly 5. So we're going to parenthesis on the 5 and shade below. X is no more than 5. Well, if you have no more than $5, that means you could have 2 or 3 or 4, or you could even equal 5. You just can't have more than 5. Okay? So that means we're going to be shading below 5. And because it could equal 5, we're going to put a squared off bracket. Okay? X is no less than 5. Okay, now people see that less than and think they're going to put a less than symbol. But it says no less than 5. That means it's not less than 5. It could be greater than 5, or it could equal 5. It just can't be less than 5. It's no less than. 5 is the smallest it could be. Because it's got the equal sign, I'm going to put the squared off bracket on 5. And I'm going to shade to the right. Because it could be more than 5, just can't be less. X is no fewer than 5. Okay, X is no fewer than 5. That means it could equal 5, or it could be more than 5. It just can't be fewer than 5. It can't be 4 or 3. It's got to be 6, 7, 8, etc. Or it could be 5 exactly. Just can't be fewer. Because it's got the equal to, we do a squared off bracket, shade to the right. Next one, x is at most 5. That means 5 is the most it could be. We could have less than 5. We could have exactly 5. We just can't have more than 5. 5 is the most that it could be. So on our number line, we're shading to the left, and we're going to put a squared off bracket because 5 is the most. X is a maximum of 5. Okay, well, if 5 is the maximum, then that means 5 is the most it could be. 5 is the highest it could be. So x is going to be less than or equal to 5. So we're going to shade to the left of 5 and have a squared off bracket. X is a minimum of 5. It's kind of the opposite of maximum there. So if x is a minimum of 5, that means it could be more than 5. If you have a minimum of $5, then that's the smallest you have. You could have more than that. Oh, sorry. You could have more than that. I wrote that backwards. So you could have 6 or 7 or 8. It's just that 5 is the smallest it could be. So we're going to have a squared off bracket on 5, shade to the right to allow for 6 or 7 or 8. X is smaller than 5. That means x is less than 5. So on our number line, parenthesis on the 5 because it does not have an equal to, and we shade to the left. X is greater than 5. Okay, so x is bigger. We shade to the right, and because it doesn't have an equal to, we have a parenthesis. X is not above 5. Okay, well, if it's not above it, that must mean it's below it. It's smaller than 5, okay? They don't say anything, it's not above 5, so that means it's probably less. It could equal 5, okay? When they say it's not above, that just means it can't be more than 5, but it could still equal 5. So, I'm going to be shading to the left, and I'm going to put a squared off bracket because it has the equal to. X exceeds 5. That means x is larger than 5. Goes to the right here. Parenthesis because it does not have the equal to symbol. X does not exceed 5. Okay, well, if it does not exceed it, that means it's below it. Okay, but it could also be equal to. It just can't go above it. Okay, so if you don't exceed 5, that means you can't go above it, but you could be below it or you could be at exactly 5. So we're going to shade this to the left, and we're going to put a squared off bracket. X is below 5. That means x is less than 5. We're going to shade to the left, and we're going to put a parenthesis on the 5 because it does not have equal to. X is above 5. That means it's greater than 5. We're going to shade to the right, and we're going to put a parenthesis because it does not have equal to. X is not below 5. That means it could be above it, or it could be equal to 5. It just can't be below it. So I'm going to put a squared off bracket because it could equal, and shade to the right. And then these are the two that you're probably also really familiar with. X is greater than or equal to 5. It means it's larger or equal to. I'm going to shade to the right because I could have bigger numbers like 6 or 7. And it's going to have a squared off bracket because it has the equal to. X is less than or equal to 5 would be right here. Shade to the left. And again, put a squared off bracket because it has the equal to. Okay. On the back, they want us to write at least 4 statements. Ha, ha, ha. See what I did there? At least 4 statements that are equivalent to the inequality. So you could pick any of the phrases over here, but we want at least 4. That means 4 or more. So when they say x is this symbol right here to 8, of course that means x is less than or equal to 8. Because it has the equal to sign, I would put a squared off bracket on my number line there. We could say x is smaller than 8. No, I'm sorry. It could be smaller than or equal to 8, so we don't want to have to tie all that together. So x is, how about no more than 8? That means it's smaller than 8 or it could equal 8. It just can't be more than. Let's see, what else could we say? How about x is at most 8? Okay, that's the most it could be. Or maybe we say x does not exceed 8. It did not go above it. Okay, and there's other ones, but that's 4. Okay, this right here on our number line, here's our 3. We're saying x is greater than 3. We're going to put a parenthesis instead of a squared off bracket because it doesn't have an equal. So we'll say x is greater than 3. We could say x is above 3. We could say x is more than 3. We could say x is greater than, yeah, we already said that. How about x exceeds 3? That means it's bigger than 3. It does not equal it. It's definitely bigger. Okay. When we write them this way, we're used to our variable being on the left. So if you want to change that and put h on the left and 12 on the right, that's fine. But notice this is saying 12 is bigger than h because it's opening to the 12. That means 12 is the larger number. So this is saying 12 is greater than h. If you want to put h on the left, you'd have to say h is less than 12. So we could say h is less than 12. Again, if you did a graph, 12 would be here in the middle, and we would be shading to the left because h is smaller than 12, or 12 is bigger than h. And we put a parenthesis because it can't equal 12. So we could say h is less than 12. We could say h is below 12. We could say x is fewer than 12. We could say x is smaller than 12. Okay, those are all acceptable. There's probably other ones too, but those are 4 good ones. And then here's another one where they kind of wrote it backwards. They put the number on the left and the variable on the right. If you would rather switch it, so w is on the left and 4 is on the right, we got to think about which one's bigger. So this, it's opening to the w, so that means w is the bigger one. So you could say w is greater than or equal to 4. We're shading to the right here. W is larger than 4, and we would put a squared off bracket because it's got the equal to. So we could say W is at least 4, meaning it's 4 or more. We could say W is a minimum of 4, meaning it could be 4 or it could be more, but 4 is the smallest it could be. We could say W is no less than 4. That means it could be more or it could be equal, but it can't be less. Or we could say maybe W is not below 4, because it could equal 4, it could be above, it just can't be below. So there's probably other ones that would work, but those are some good examples. Okay. So think about these phrases carefully. Not only which way did we shade, the left or the right, but did we include the number or not? Okay. If we had an equal to symbol, then that means you have a squared off bracket on the graph, and that it did equal that number. Okay. If you did not have an equal to sign, then we put a parenthesis, and that means it did not equal that number. It got real close, like in this one here. It could go to 11.99999, but it didn't all the way go to 12. Okay, so practice with those. Think about how those work before you move on to the intro to chapter 6. Okay, thanks.